it's Zaylee of ZayleeBarclay.com. Welcome to the Start, Shoot, Grow studio. I'm so happy to have you here with me today. Today we are talking about thumbnails. Listen, thumbnails is a whole different game in 2020. And so I'm like, I need to share about this because people always ask me about my visual content. Like, how do I get pictures to look like that? I'm like, you know what? Let me just break things down. Now, this video has 3 parts. 3. So, I had to be a little bit extra and break things down, chop it up. The first part, we're talking about thumbnails themselves, like what you can do to improve your own thumbnails, tips and tricks and strategies that I think about before I even get my thumbnail going, right? I record my video first and then I pull the emotion from that video and I take a picture to depict whatever it is that I want people to feel. So we're gonna dive deeper into emotions and the emotions of thumbnails and all of that good stuff. The second part is promotion, right? So how I really get into Canva, create that thumbnail, and then recreate it for all different platforms. I mean, we have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have Insta Stories, and I always update my email list to let them know that I have videos out as well. So I want you to think about that. So we'll be covering that. And then in part 3, we're actually going to go through a few thumbnails because it's so crazy. I want to show you guys which thumbnails I'm interested in, which ones make me click, which ones have me curious. There's so many different thumbnails out there in different parts of YouTube. YouTube has a bunch of little corners. And yeah, so I'm like, why not share this? Now, don't get me wrong. You can also use the strategies that I'm teaching to take pictures for your Instagram, or to even, you guys know I am deep into course creation. So if you want to create graphics for your course, you can use some of these tips as well. And, if you're creating video for courses, you might be using thumbnails as well. So these are just a few tips that you can use generally, but we're really just touching on thumbnails for 2020. So I'm excited to dive in with you guys. Let's go. Ready? So the first thing I want you to know about thumbnails is that your goal is to make that thing clickable. You're up against a lot of competition, and if your video is suggested or someone finds your video through search, guess what? You kind of want that content to be consumed, right? That's why you're creating videos. Not kinda, you do. So one thing that I want to remind you of is actually taking the time to think about the emotion that you want to evoke from someone. So do you want someone to, be excited about your topic, to be curious about your topic? Do you want them to, what kind of action or what kind of emotion do you want them to feel in order to take action? So I want you to think about that. Now, I know I mentioned before that I record my videos and then I take my thumbnail. That's because I know exactly what I spoke about. So I know of a line or something that I can pull out and really create a moment around that for a picture. So keep that in mind. It's definitely a game changer. So I know I mentioned before that I actually take my thumbnail pictures after I do my video. That way I have a good idea of what emotion I want to really focus in on or express. And I like doing that because there might be some line or some feeling that I want to pull out of the video that I just created that I can then share on that thumbnail picture. So that's just something to think about, and it really, really helps. So I just wanted to make sure and add that in there. So let's talk a little bit about thumbnail strategy. Let's talk about the fact that it really depends on your industry and what you're trying to depict. Let's say if you have a weight loss video, you can have a before and after that makes that thumbnail clickable. If you're in the beauty industry, which I used to be in before, you can have a picture of how you looked before you did your makeover. That's something that definitely gets people interested and ready to click that thumbnail. So you want to think about things like that. Also, I like to think about the opposite of what someone expects. So let's say the thumbnail text says one thing and the title says one thing, but your picture is the exact opposite. That can definitely get you curious. Before we go on, I want to ask a question. Is there any thumbnail that you've ever seen that made you really curious? Or, how do you feel about thumbnails? Do you click on them? What's your thought about, creating thumbnails that make people curious and want to click? right? So are you smiling in that thumbnail? Are you doing something? I like seeing actionable thumbnails too. Ones where people are actually in the action or doing. For example, if you are sharing productivity tips and I see you at a desk looking really serious on your computer, I might want to click that because you look like you're about your business, you know? So think about things like that. So when I'm taking thumbnails, I like to think about at least 3 photos that I can take so that I have an option or a choice, or sometimes I even layer them, right? So you want to have a few pictures of a few expressions that might be a result of what's going on in your video. I love doing that so that, you know, I have a few things to pick from, or maybe one didn't come out right, or, you know, you don't want to have no thumbnails, because what happens is I take my thumbnails directly after a video, which means I look just like this and I probably look just like that in the video too. So I just want you to take note of this kind of thing so that you don't have to add extra steps to your workflow. Now, another really cool tip is one that I got from Sunny Lenarduzzi. She's really awesome and has so much good YouTube content. And I'm going to also layer that with something that I've done. So when you are searching for, you know, well, first of all, doing research before you create any content at all, one thing that she recommended was taking note of what the thumbnails based on that topic look like and going the exact opposite way. And I thought that was really, really cool. So let's say all of those thumbnails were, you know, more on the yellow side of things. She would advise to go more on the green side so that you stand out and people actually want to click your video. I love that tip. But because I'm someone that's a real stickler about my branding, I know, shoot me, but I am really into keeping that cohesion or that cohesive look when it comes to my work, just so that my community knows that I've posted something and so that other people can see that, hey, you know, I'm organized as well. My YouTube thumbnails have a specific color. My website has a specific color palette, I should say. And so I kind of want to keep it cute in that way. Now, what I took from her tip was if I have different colors in my palette, I can go the opposite way by using one of my color palette and also keeping that cohesion with the way that I've been designing my thumbnails, right? So I want you to keep that in mind because I love keeping my brand, you know, really noticeable in that way. The last thing I want to share before we dive into the next section is actually keeping your words, like making people think with your words. So that thumbnail text is really cool that you can play around with it. So don't repeat the same thing on your thumbnail text on your title. That's where you can get a bit clickbaity, right? So that's where you can make people think a bit more, or it's where you can even niche down your topic a bit more and let people know that this video is specifically for them. So I love that. So let's say you are a bartender and you're sharing a pina colada recipe. You can also add some text into that thumbnail that you may not have been able to put in the title. So you can put easiest recipe, best recipe, recipe for teachers, you know, just to let your audience know that you're speaking directly to them. Or you can add emojis, things that make people feel like they need to click on this video right away, right? Or even if you're speaking about a brand, a specific brand, you can use their logo on the thumbnail so that people know this is the tutorial that I need. So simple things like that really help your person to start thinking like, this video is for me. I need to see this video right now. And that's what I want you to think about when you are creating your thumbnails. All right, guys, if you enjoyed this video, definitely let me know down in the comments, or even let me know by subscribing. If you've gotten this far into the video, I think you should subscribe, and also turn on that notification bell. Now, remember the question of the video that I asked, I was about to say question of the day, but the question in this video was, how do you feel about thumbnails? You know, have they been making you click on stuff? Have they been activating those emotional or psychological juices when it comes to you deciding if you want to watch a video or not? Let me know down in the comments. We'll talk about it down there. I love you guys, and I will see you soon.